Chapter 18, downloaded from the hard disk of Zachary Gustafson. Horror Dome. Scene 4. Interior, Goodyear Blimp. Day. High above the Enormodome, the brilliant but warped evil scientist Dr. Demento finishes tying up the blimp pilot. Pilot. You'll never get away with this! You're demented! Dr. Demento. No, I'm Demento! He stuffs a gag in the pilot's mouth and throws his head back in terrifying maniacal laughter. Point of view shot. Far below, thousands of people like ants stream into the 100,000-seat stadium. Dr. Demento. Poor, unsuspecting fools. I'll fill their Super Bowl with a hot soup of terror! As the last few stragglers enter the stadium, he presses a red button. The giant retractable roof of the stadium slams shut, and all entrances are sealed automatically. 100,000 people are trapped! I rubbed my hands together with glee. This stuff practically wrote itself! This was going to be my best screenplay ever. Dr. Demento was a truly memorable character. I could easily see a whole series of movies. Horror Dome 2, The Carnage Continues. Horror Dome 3, The Meadowlands Massacre. The possibilities were endless. Perfect timing, too. Pretty soon I'd be close enough to Milo to ask his dad to show my work around in Hollywood. Spilling the beans about Henrietta Krogging was one of my smarter moves. How do you get to be someone's best friend? By making everyone else in the world hate him. It was friendship by default. Milo was alone like a dog, except for me. Yeah, I know that sounds cold, but I was a good friend to Milo. For instance, I told him about the time I wet my pants at Disney World because friends always share their deepest secrets. He's probably going to tell me something important, too. I went over to his house every day that week. I mean, the guy needed the support. Even his own mother wanted to stop him from whacking Henrietta. I give him credit, though. He was brave. Every single day he tried to talk me out of coming, saying it wasn't necessary and stuff. Oh, it's no problem, I told him. I'm here for you, buddy. He just groaned with gratitude. School was the toughest of all. It wasn't easy sharing a classroom with a doomed chicken. The air in the lab crackled with tension and heartbreak and anger. Every few minutes, someone would look over at Henrietta poking around in her coop and freak out, or burst into tears, or launch into another plea for mercy. They all knew Henrietta was close to the end because the science fair was on Saturday. But Mrs. Baggio banned all Henrietta talk, and Milo wouldn't say when he was taking that lousy chicken over to Arno's butcher shop. So nobody knew when it was going to happen. I did, of course. I read it right off of Mrs. Neal's kitchen calendar last night. There it was, in bright red ink under Wednesday. Arno's, 4 p.m. Milo caught me snooping and swore me to secrecy. Hey, you could trust me, pal, I pledged. Zachary Gustafson's word was good as gold. I only slipped up once, but I think I got away with it. I committed the strategic error of being in the washroom at the same time as Adam on Tuesday before science. As usual, he started getting on my case about taking Milo's side against his stupid Rangers. I wasn't in the mood for another wedgie, so I told him to mind his own business. It is my business, he snapped back. It's the captain's business to make sure our mascot is safe. So help me, I couldn't resist. After tomorrow, I assured him, you won't have to worry anymore. I left him standing there in the can. I was positive he didn't understand what I meant. These hockey players aren't too bright, you know. Just to be sure, I kept an eye on him in class. He was looking back at Henrietta a lot. Did he suspect anything? Probably not. Everybody was looking at Henrietta. Everybody except Milo. Mrs. Baggio was still trying to run this like a normal science class. The science projects were starting to come in, but it was taking forever to present them. Sheila sobbed her way through a project on bats, never once taking her eyes off the chicken coop in the corner. Bravo! Kelly Marie leapt to her feet, applauding madly. That's the greatest science project I've ever seen in my life! Miss Baggio, that should be our class entry for the science fair! It's awesome! Adam chimed in. I never knew science could be so exciting! By then the whole class was clued in. They were clapping and chanting, bats, bats, bats! I sprang up. This is stupid. They don't think bats is any good. They just want someone else to go to the science fair instead of Milo, since there's no sense cooking Henrietta. I sat down amidst a shower of spitballs and jeers. Mrs. Baggio put on a brave face. The student who goes to the science fair will be the one who hands in the best work, and that decision won't be made until all the projects are in. She was in for a long wait, because I hadn't started mine yet. It wasn't that I was lazy, I just didn't have the guts to ask Mrs. Baggio to remind me what my topic was. But I wasn't worried. I whipped something up at 3 o'clock in the morning on the last day. How hard could it be for the best friend of Victor Neal's son? Interior, Enormodome, day. Halftime at the Super Bowl. The marching band is on the field. Majorettes are twirling batons. The crowd is clapping along. Interior, Goodyear blimp, day. Dr. Demento prepares for the final phase of his sinister experiment. Dr. Demento, they called me mad when I proposed the transmutation of matter, but I'll show them all. They'll see that Myron Demento is nobody's fool! He flips a giant switch. Interior, Enormodome, day. There is a brilliant flash and a bright thunderclap. The cheering sound is changed into a high-pitched warble. The music stops. The instruments fall to the AstroTurf. The smoke clears to reveal the stadium, filled with 100,000 chickens! Chickens fill the stands! The band and majorettes have changed into chickens! Chickens wait in line at the concession stands! In the broadcast booth, chicken commentators cluck into the microphones! The team try to take the field, but now chickens! They can barely move inside their helmets! Chicken referees flop about, lost in giant striped shirts. Whoa! It was happening again! More chickens! 100,000 of them this time! In a cold sweat, I switched off the computer. Was I losing my mind? Just when I needed to be in peak writing form? My whole style was going to the dogs, or at the very least, chickens. How could I give Victor Neal a screenplay full of chickens? Okay, calm myself, I told myself. It was only the big ruckus at school giving me chickens on the brain. Tomorrow, Milo would take Henrietta to Arno's, and it was a one-way trip. She'd be gone, for my life and my writing. Aloha, my feathered friend. What a beautiful thought. Only, it had seemed a lot more beautiful when it wasn't happening tomorrow. I struggled into my pajamas, figuring I'd go to bed early and sleep off this weird feeling. But when I was all tucked in and the lights were out, it wasn't any better. I kept seeing Henrietta and an axe and a rotating spit. I should have been overjoyed about this. I hated the chicken and the chicken hated me. This was the perfect ending to a horrible relationship, especially since I wasn't the one who was going to die. Get a grip, Zachary! Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that silly red crawl that wiggled when she walked on those stupid chicken feet. That annoying squawk echoed in my head. Those beady eyes stared at me, reproachfully. And I knew, as sure as Hollywood is in California, if I let Henrietta die, she was going to haunt me for the rest of my life. I jumped out of bed and started throwing on clothes. Fade to black. Chapter 19. Rangers Update. Captain Adam Laree reporting. After tomorrow, you won't have to worry anymore. That was what the dweeb said. But what did it mean? Was Milo planning to back off and let the chicken live? It didn't sound like Milo. And it definitely didn't sound like a 20-time recipient of the Congressional Medal of Losers. No. Zachary meant I wouldn't have to worry because there would be no more chicken to worry about. Tomorrow was execution day! Well, I didn't know if Henrietta was special or just some Joe Blow chicken off any farm. But I was sure of one thing. I had to save the team. And saving the team meant saving the bird. So that's what I was doing when I headed for the school at 8 o'clock Tuesday night. Chicken napping. I knew the janitor's entrance would be unlocked until the custodian left around 9. The tricky part was avoiding Mr. Farr as I crept through the maze of tall storage shelves and slipped into the main hallway of the school. Mr. Farr was a nice guy, but I didn't want to have to explain what I was doing here. This was exactly the type of caper that could get you kicked off the team. It went so smoothly that I let my guard down and I almost missed it. For there, in the gleaming wetness of the freshly mopped floor, was a trail of sneaker footprints. I frowned. Definitely wasn't Mr. Farr. The prints were too small. Didn't make sense. There weren't any clubs or teams that met on Tuesday nights. Who besides me was sneaking around the school? Keeping a sharp eye out for Mr. Farr, I followed the trail. It stretched past the gym, through the math wing. I froze. The intruder, whoever it was heading for the science lab. Panicking, I picked up speed and made for the bag's room on the dead run. As I raced around the last corner, I never saw the foot that tripped me. To say I flew 40 feet would be exaggerating, but not by much. Whump! I hit the ground and saw stars. When my vision cleared, the person standing over me was Kelly Marie. She was smiling. "Adam," she said proudly, "you came to save Henrietta." I sat up and faced her. That's what I was doing before some total maniac tried to kill me! She hauled me up. "Well, I couldn't tell it was you until you were flat on your face already." "It was perfect commando logic." "How'd you know tonight was the last chance?" I asked. "Did the dweeb spill his guts to you too?" "I got my mom to call Arno's and say she was Mrs. Neal," Kelly Marie admitted. "They confirmed the appointment for 4 o'clock tomorrow." "Right after school," I gulped. The Rangers were that close to losing our mascot. "Come on, let's go get her." We ran into the lab together and stood, side by side, in shock. The coop was empty. I was pretty upset, but Kelly Marie went into a meltdown. Her face turned bright red and she began to hyperventilate, each breath making a high-pitched wheezing whistle. "Not so loud," I said. "You want Mr. Farr on our necks?" "But where's Henrietta?" "I don't know. How should I know?" I babbled, straining to keep my voice down. "Unless Milo anticipated our move and took her home a day early." It took a second to recognize her reaction because it wasn't rage or tantrum or a psychology lecture. Her lips trembled and tears rolled down her cheeks. Kelly Marie was crying. "I hate crying. Cut that out," I ordered nervously. "She's gone," she quavered. Tears freaked me out. For a moment, I even forgot about the Rangers and how much we needed Henrietta. I was so uncomfortable I didn't know where to look. Up at the ceiling, out the window, down the floor. I gawked. "You're wearing your Doc Martens!" She belted me right in the face. "How can you talk about shoes when you've lost Henrietta, you cold-hearted—" No, I grabbed her by the shoulders. "The footprints I followed here were sneaker prints. They can't be yours. They had to be Milo's," she finished breathily. We both looked down. The tracks led from the doorway to the chicken wire, then away from the coop, straight into Mrs. Baggio's equipment closet. I was over there in 2 strides. "Okay, Milo, the jig's up. Come on out." There was no answer, so Kelly Marie rushed up and flung open the door. But it wasn't Milo in there, clutching the struggling Henrietta to his chest. Among the beakers and experiment books cowered none other than his royal loserness, the gold medalist from the Loser Olympics, Zachary Gustafson. "Are you taking her to Milo?" I accused. "I'm rescuing her," the dweeb insisted. "Don't believe him," snarled Kelly Marie. "He hates Henrietta." "Darn right," he said proudly. "But you think I want to spend the rest of my life with that face on my conscience?" To prove his innocence, he handed the bird to Kelly Marie. As a parting shot, Henrietta took a swipe at him with her claw. "Ow!" I clamped my hand over the dweeb's mouth. "Pipe down and let's get out of here." I grabbed a blanket and wrapped it around our mascot. Once outside the school, we paused to consider Henrietta's future. "I'll take her," Kelly Marie said immediately. "You're the first person Milo will suspect," I told her, "and I'm the second." I turned to face Zachary. "No way!" cried Kelly Marie. "I refuse to leave Henrietta with someone who hates her." "She hated me first," whined Zachary. "It's perfect," I argued. "Everyone knows Zach and Henrietta hate each other. Plus, he's such a big suck-up that no one would believe he'd ever go against Milo." "That's not fair," said Zachary hotly. "Milo and I had a genuine friendship." Kelly Marie addressed the bird. "It's okay, sweetie. He may be a complete idiot, but he isn't going to let anybody hurt you." She shook her fist at the dweeb. "Right, Zachary?" I glanced at my watch. It was almost 9. Let's get home before our parents think someone is up. I looked into the super loser's shifty eyes. The Canadians' game is on Saturday afternoon. If anything happens to the bird between now and then, you're going to take our place at Arno's butcher shop.